Welcome, football fundamentalists. It's your boy Fabian again, and yeah, as you know it, we're talking about the most entertaining match of the 2010 World Cup held in South Africa. Alright, first World Cup to be held in South Africa. Now, this World Cup, in my opinion, didn't have a plethora of entertaining games, you know. I don't want to blame the Jabulani for anything or why the game was played the way it was in this World Cup, but teams that tend to play the safer match came out more victorious. That's just my personal opinion. But the most entertaining match, let me go through the runner-up first. Alright, no, this one was kind of difficult, I ain't lying. You know, most of the matches didn't stand out for entertainment. You know, it was football, it was entertaining. We enjoyed the matches, but that real extra spark, we say, oh boy, there's one to remember. Took me a while to go through all the matches and see which one kind of jerked my memory. But I guess this one would be personal opinion. Brazil versus Holland in the quarterfinal, I believe, was one of the most entertaining matches. Not more or less for style of play, but for story and drama and individuals. So let me put this into context. Brazil versus Holland in the quarterfinal of the 2010 World Cup. Brazil, managed by Dunga. Dunga made the not so popular decision to leave Ronaldinho out of the squad. Alright, handing the number 10 over to Kaká. Kaká is a worthy number 10. Love Kaká, have no problems with him, with his playing style, the way he plays, the way he leads, the way he creates. Very impressive. And he was impressive throughout the World Cup up to that point. Robinho, his partner in crime, was also having an outstanding World Cup, doing his thing, you know. He's one of them kings of the dribble, you know. Step over his ear, Robinho. And Dunga kind of took a pragmatic approach to Brazil, alright? And it worked throughout the qualifiers. They qualified first in the qualifying and CONMEBOL to get into the World Cup. And they were drawn in a kind of ticklish group. They had Portugal, led by Cristiano Ronaldo, Ivory Coast, and North Korea. Well, they beat North Korea, not too convincingly, but they did the job. They drew with Portugal, you know, safe bet, and they beat Ivory Coast, you know, entertaining match. And then they went into the second round, won that match easily, and had to fight against the Dutch. Now the Dutch team, coached by Van Marwijk, I believe his name is, don't crucify me for the pronunciation, led by a very talented Wesley Sneijder, Arjen Robben, De Kuyt. A team with outstanding players, you know, the Dutch. They don't ever fail to bring strong teams to a World Cup when they do qualify. They met each other in the quarterfinal, which was one of the many quarterfinals that had two giants coming up against each other. Now, Felipe Melo, defensive midfielder for Brazil, played a beautiful slide rule pass to Robinho, who scored early in the match. It looked like a sign of things to come. It looked like Brazil were going to stroll past Holland into the semi-final. Up to that point. But enter Wesley Sneijder. Now, Sneijder is a player I believe should have been the most outstanding player for that World Cup. And the Ballon d'Or winner for that year, having won the Champions League with Inter Milan and the league, the Scudetto that is, in Italy. And then leading Holland to the final where they lost to Spain. But up to that point, I believe he was the standout player in the World Cup and for that year in football. But they gave it to Messi. That is a story for another time. Just saying. Brazilian leading 1-0. Then Sneijder takes a corner in the second half. And a confusion between Felipe Melo and Cesar in goal for Julio. Cesar is his name for Brazil, the goalkeeper. And the ball is in the back of the net. Up to that point, Holland wasn't really giving Brazil any problems. And it just sparked something in Holland. And I don't know if that goal made the Brazilian heads drop. But Holland just started improving, lifting their spirits and, hey guys, we could win this, let's go for it, you know. And go for it they did. And then Wesley Sneijder scored a header to make it 2-1. And it seems like Brazil just collapsed. I don't see how you could be leading 1-0 and bossing the game, and you concede a goal and you just collapse. And then Felipe Melo, the player who played that lovely through ball to Robinho to score, had a moment of madness where he stamped or he walked on one of the Dutch players and got a red card? Come on. Now you're playing with 10 men against Holland, who leading 2-1. My friend, the script has been written and the movie's over. You're out of the World Cup again in the quarter-final stage. They're a strong team, Holland nonetheless. No shame in losing to them. But then again, you are Brazil. You're the most successful team in the history of the World Cup. And I think going out like that was kind of anticlimactic for them. Kudos to Holland for playing to the end and really pushing the game and holding out when Brazil were trying to get that equalizer. Kudos to them. But yeah, no shortage on drama in that game, you know. The football was entertaining at times, but it's Brazil. You make football a Greek tragedy. I don't know how else to put it, you know. Shakespeare was writing his football scripts, you'd be starting it all the time. Every time Brazil exits a World Cup, some kind of drama. I don't ever see them going out without any kind of... But kudos to Brazil. You are the team to watch throughout the years in World Cup. Let's see how you do in 2026 this year. And the most entertaining match of the 2010 World Cup has to be Ghana versus Uruguay in the quarterfinal. Everyone was expecting an African team to go the distance in this World Cup, being that it was hosted in Africa, South Africa that is, and the only African team carrying the flag for the great continent was Ghana. Ghana beat USA in the round of 16 and will now face against Uruguay in the quarterfinal. Ghana, Kevin Prince Boateng, Asamoah Gyan, Sule Montari, they were all having good World Cups. They were showing that, hey, Africa have footballers. Yeah, you know, and it's not just speed and skill. We tactically sound as well. So they were into the quarterfinal to face Luis Suarez, Diego Forlan, Edison Cavani, Uruguay. Uruguay had a strong team as well. So we know how the game went. They were 1-1 up to a point, and then the infamous incident where Luis Suarez cleared a ball off the line with his hand. He did a better job than the goalkeeper. Truth be told, if I was in that position, playing for a place in the semi-final, my goalkeeper already beaten, I probably would have done the same thing too. So, hey, it was a reflex. Something had to be done. I don't want to lose. Boom. Referee made the call, red card, correct decision, penalty, correct decision. And then Asamoah Gyan missed the penalty, causing the game to go into extra time, and then penalties. And then Uruguay go on to win the game on penalties. That one was, you couldn't make this stuff up, you know? World Cup football bringing the drama. Imagine the weight of Africa resting on your back, on your shoulders. You get an opportunity to win the match in normal time, and you miss the penalty, and then you're going to get knocked out on penalties. He had some sleepless nights, Asamoah Gyan. I feel for you, my brother. I feel for you. So Uruguay going to the semi-final, less Luis Suarez, who was having a good World Cup himself. First time we saw Luis Suarez, and we knew after that World Cup, boy, this guy, either he scores a lot of goals on you, or he does the other thing. You all know what it is, I don't need to mention it, right? Yeah, but he's quite a character. Sometimes a hero, many times a villain. But that is Luis Suarez for you, boy, bringing both sides of man. Yeah, the good and the not so good. So that, in my opinion, was the most entertaining match of the 2010 World Cup. If you beg to differ, as usual, please state in the comments which game was the most entertaining match of the 2010 World Cup. And I'll take a second look at that match and tell you yay or nay. Alright? But until then, continue to watch football, continue to play football, and continue to be a football fundamentalist. Fabian out. Yeah.